All right. So this is episode one of my true crime series that I'm doing. Episode one is based on the Zodiac killer. All right, let's get started. So I actually am not reading off my script like I said I would. I wrote a script for this, but I'm never really good with reading off scripts. I've always kind of sucked at that. So let's just get straight to the point, shall we? Okay. My challenge for each month of this series is to get enough information within a month's time, which I started this back in September. And I knew I was going to start with the Zodiac Killer. It's a case I've also been researching into a lot for a while, so I had a slight head start. But I've gathered quite a bit of information. Not everything is, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt, because not everything I say is 100%. This is just from my own research and everything else. So, what I tried doing to recap everything from the start, I started with the first cipher, or not the first cipher, recapping the case as a whole. The Zodiac Killer is known for six distinct murders, from what I remember. It's been a while since I've read into the full details of the case, but he left these four ciphers behind. Which have been solved. One was solved short a week after its release, back around the time he was still presumed alive. No one knows if he's presumed dead, but I believe he's dead because I think I have the person it was, which we'll get to that in a second. But the second cipher was solved in 2020, and it was related to a false news interview. Well, not really. The news interview happened, but the person that was said to be the Zodiac wasn't. So that's two things down. Those are two of the ciphers down, but there were two more that were unsolved. Z32 slash 23. It goes by either or. I've scouted the internet and it goes by either or. But I think the official name is Z32. That one was a 23, a certain character, the two small ciphers. And then Z13, which is the one with his name that's pretty iconic of the My Name Is cipher. The one that I released on my YouTube channel, which you can see in the posts tab with the title episode one coming soon, is the paper that was for Z13. I was messing around with the cipher while on the phone with another friend of mine who you've heard while I was playing through the Hitman games. Her name's Morgan. I was on the phone with Morgan here, and as we're talking, eventually I somehow start kind of really getting into this cipher, and I believe I've cracked through it. What is the solution? A. Lee Allen, which I know to you guys watching this doesn't really make too much sense, but to anyone who's really into the case or anyone who's kind of looked into the case before I started this first episode, the prime suspect of the case was a guy named Arthur Lee Allen, who did not like going by his first name, might I note. Who was the prime suspect, a former teacher who was fired based on some charges. I forgot, but I think that there's something related to it was some pedophile related charges from what I remember. It's like I said, it's been a bit since I've researched into the case. But he was arrested, and around that same time the Zodiac disappeared for a while. But when he was released, the Zodiac returned, which already I was skeptical about. There's a great documentary on Netflix called This Is the Zodiac Speaking, that if you're really into this case, I think gives a good insight and kind of sees things the way I do. I think I, but not quickly cutting back to where I was. Alan didn't like going by his first name. He went by Lee, and it makes sense in the cipher because A is short for Arthur. He didn't like his first name, so he could just put A. And typically he's known for giving you at least the first letter. Lee, that's the name he typically went by. Leigh, and then Alan, his last name. And with the 13 characters, it lines up. Sorry, I thought I heard something. That's why I paused for a second. But with all of that lined up, that makes sense. And I believe that is the solution for the Z13 cipher. Now, is this me saying, I've got the code, I got the code? No. This is just a possible solution. Now, let's cut back to the other cipher, Z3223. There was a map with it. which I think I haven't been able to crack through the cipher even after months of doing this. That cipher I started back in April. I didn't start the other one till recently. But I've been struggling to crack through this cipher, and I haven't still. It's a tricky one. So if anyone wants to try it, go ahead. Uh, I think I can just. I recommend going to Google. That's what I was trying to get at to find like a good link of what it looks like. Because that's typically where I went for these Google and like some FBI pages. But sidetracking back to the main topic with that, I think I have solved the map. Originally, I thought it was a location known as Devil's Pulpit, which is a place in California, it's like some sort of redstone cave where he had planted a big boom. We'll call it the big boom. I was gonna say big funny, but this is a pretty serious case, so I'm not gonna do that. He planted a big boom there, but it was a dud, so it didn't really even explode. But that's besides the point. Um, I think I think the actual location is JFK Library. The reason I said Devil's Pulpit at first, I redid the coordinates later after my mom and I were scouting through the internet saw a possible solution, and it's a JFK Library through the possible cipher solution, which I don't think that one was correct because there was still a lot of mistakes. But I think the answer to the map is JFK Library. That's at least what I think. And other than that, that's about all of the evidence I think I've gathered, which means I've still passed the challenge. I've got somewhere. But I'm also going to use this time to announce what episode 2 is going to be. So, episode 2 took a bit of discussion. This episode took a bit. I'm surprised I got as far as I did into this investigation. And another great movie I can recommend is Zodiac by David Fincher. That's a pretty good film. I will say the first act's pretty slow compared to the second act, but it's still a good film and I think does just a good job at explaining the case. Um, but that one's for like 17 plus since it's an R-rated film. I think I meant to go back to the episode 2, sorry. Like I said, I'm not reading a script. Episode 2 is going to be on the Axeman of New Orleans. This case, unlike the Zodiac, which took place in the 60s, 70s era, took place only over the span of a year, 1918 to 1919. Information on the Axeman of New Orleans case is extremely limited. So this case will be a lot harder this time, and I don't think I'm going to get too far. But after this episode, I'm actually going to start looking into that case. So I do know little things about it, but I thought I'd announce what episode 2 is going to be. Anyway, I think that's everything I wanted to talk about. I got a lot further in the Zodiac case than I thought I would. Again, all of this is just what I got. It's not a definitive answer or a definitive solution to anything. And the Zodiac case is still a mystery as of me recording this. I don't know, it could be 20 years down the line, it's solved. 100. I don't know, freaking another 200 years. Pull a Jack the Ripper. Sorry. What I mean by that, too, is that the Jack the Ripper case was solved by Bullet Jack the Ripper, to clarify. Anyway, that's about it. I will see you guys later.